something a little different. You might have noticed in the title below that this is something called a team trade. This is very similar to my click talks, in which I'll talk about Heroclix through their dials, but I won't be going through sets. I'll be going through a team that I've assembled, a team that's not quite where I want it to be. And I'll talk about who's on the team, why I built the team, sort of the focus of the team, and then I'll kind of open it up for you guys in the comments below to tell me, oh, well, if it's at this point value and you're trying to get to this point value, maybe this character from this set would fit into this requirement. I'm kind of doing this just because I kind of wanted to give it a shot, see what happens, and also it was the easiest way for me to talk about one of my favorite Heroclix that I got, who is I'm kind of fanboying over based on his recent movie. Hint, hint. But let's get started. Alright, to start off, we have a character whose name is Shadowcat, but you might more aptly recognize her as Kitty Pryde. Her Shadowcat, I think, was like her shield code name or something like that. I'm not entirely certain, but she's pretty sweet. She's a 70-point click. She starts with two special powers from her card right on her dial. She has flight. I don't think it's like actually flight, but it's more like she can phase through stuff, so she can essentially move through it as if she could fly over it. But 70 points, X-Men team ability, no range, basic dial. Other than that, two specials, which I'll get into. Starts with combat reflexes and outwit. Has that for 2 dials. Then she loses one of her specials, gains super senses on her third, and then she loses her outwit to gain perplex, regains her special on her fourth, loses her fist special again, and then she's KO'd after 5 clicks. So she's doesn't have a lot of sustaining power, but she's got a lot of initial click tricks that she can use, and plenty of staying power with a +2 to her defense like that. And outwit is always great. Having outwit can really kick a character high up on my list, just because you can use outwit to neutralize. If you're facing a person who's going to use charge to hit you next turn, you can outwit the charge, and then they can't hit you. They can just run up to you. It gets you an extra turn to either attack or move away or do something else. You can use outwit to neutralize any of the defensive powers like invincible, invulnerable, impervious. That means that your damage is going to be hitting a little bit harder. Instead of getting 3 reduced to 2 for 1, you can get full 3 and really take them down. But she's got 2 specials. Her flight, first one, is called Intangibility. She has phasing teleport and stealth. The phasing teleport, she keeps that for her entire dial, so she's always intangible. So she can always use phasing teleport, she can always use stealth. Phasing teleport is great. She can move rapidly throughout the battlefield. She's not stopped by anything. She can move from hindering terrain into other hindering terrain. She can move through blocking terrain. Someone's hiding on the other side. She can use it to get on the other side and do whatever she needs to do. Stealth increases her survivability just because you're not as likely to hit somebody. If she's in hindering terrain or she's hiding behind something, then you can't hit her. That's great. Really helps to up her survivability from, just a little bit with her 5 clicks to a little bit more because she's not as easy to hit. And then she's got a special for her first, second, and fourth dials, which is named Disruption. Now, the way this works is she can use Incapacitate, and when she uses a move action, she can use Incapacitate. Just flat out, she can use Incapacitate, which is good. Incapacitate is great if you don't want a critical fail on yourself, and the person's already maxed out on 2 tokens and you don't have any way to remove his reducers. Is a little bit more situational, but I have definitely used Incapacitate in my favor. Like this one fight I was using a Steve Rogers from the Captain America Winter Soldier gravity feat. He was the one in the plainclothes. He was only 65 points, so he was very cheap. I was facing off against this other person who was running a different Steve Rogers, a much higher level Steve Rogers, and a couple other Captain America type characters. And I was like, all right, I don't have any way to remove Captain America's attack thing. He's maxed out on 2 tokens, so the best I can do is 1 anyways. I'm going to use Incapacitate on him, and as I'm explaining, I was like, which is great because if I hit critical fail, then I won't do damage to myself. Roll the dice, critical fail, I just dodged it because I'm psychic. Not really, but I was really happy about that. But Incapacitate can be great. If you're in those types of situations where you know you're not going to be able to do any damage with a basic attack, you can use Incapacitate to slow the person down, maybe do a click of unavoidable damage, that sort of thing. Always nice. And then, when she is given a move action, after action resolve, she uses Incapacitate as a freer action to make close combat attacks. She targets all opposing characters occupying a square she moved through that has the armor, robot, or vehicle keywords. So anything that is machine-based, if she moves through it on a full move action, she can use Incapacitate as a free action to hit that person. So she's facing off against, I don't know, a cyborg or a tank. She can move through it, gets a free Incapacitate after moving through it, and then on the other side, she gets a free Incapacitate after moving through it. She gets on to the other area. Maybe she stops just on the other side of the tank, and then on her next turn, she can use Incapacitate again to damage it even more. That's really great. So yeah, that Disruptions is her really big trick. And her final little thing that she's got is she is a switch click. She removes from her base and can be added to a different base. For hers, if she's added to the X-Men and Wolverine and X-Men team base 003, which I believe was either the blue or the gold. It was one of their teams. Then that team character uses super senses in with her attached, which is cool. You gotta like super senses. To deal with this, I would definitely use ranged attacks. She has combat reflexes as her protector. So if you use ranged attacks to hit her from a distance, her defense isn't very high. But she's in hindering terrain, then you have to stealth and you have to run up and hit her. In which case, it'd be best just to hit her with some sort of maybe energy explosion or something that can deal damage to her without targeting her, because then you're not officially really targeting her, I don't think. Other than that, your best option would be just to run your 150 close combat beast in to punch her really hard, because she doesn't have a great amount of staying power beyond hiding. So if you hit her really, really hard, you're going to knock her out. If you can catch her when she's exposed in the open, then you can deal with her quick then. But that's the first one. So now we're going to move on to the other lady of this team. Alright, next up we've got Jean Grey. She is pretty popular from, well, depending. She was definitely a big part of the original X-Men trilogy with X-Men 1, and then X-Men 2 she died, and then X-Men 3 she came back as the Dark Phoenix. And I know most people were kind of iffy with her appearance in the third movie, but moving on. She's also got Flight, 8 range, double lightning, which is great. Basic dial other than that. She starts with a special called Team Transport, Penetrating Psychic Blast, which is always nice. Then Energy Shield Deflection plus Enhancement. She keeps that for 2. Then she trades in for Mind Control, Telekinesis, which makes sense with her mind abilities. She keeps the Energy Shield Deflection, and then she trades in for Support on her third dial. Then she trades that back in for Enhancement immediately afterwards, regaining also her Penetrating Psychic Blast. So that's a brief stint that exists. And then she trades it all in again on her 5th click for Force Blast instead of Mind Control, keeps the Telekinesis, and keeps the Energy Shield Deflection Enhancement. Final 6th click, she trades in her Enhancement for Support a final time. So she's almost got the staggered formation that I mentioned in a previous Click Talk video, where she's got 2 with Energy Shield Deflection Enhancement, 1 with Energy Shield Deflection Support, 2 with Energy Shield Deflection Enhancement, 1 with Energy Shield Deflection Support. So she's definitely a little bit more alternate-y than other clicks. She's got a 100 point value, flat 100, but yeah, pretty nice. Yeah. Let's see. She's got a special on her thing that she keeps for her first 2 clicks called Team Transport. She can use Running Shot, and when she does, her speed value is not decreased by the carry ability, and she can carry 3 characters if they share a keyword with her. She has the X-Men and the X-Factor keywords. So with that, she could hypothetically, let's see, with a speed of 9, she could move 5 squares, take a shot, and carry 3 people with her at the same time, which is pretty nice. Since her speed wouldn't be reduced, she would be able to move that full 5 if necessary, and then get her 8 shot and all that sort of stuff. So that's pretty nice. She's rather front click heavy. She's got most of her power there. 11 attack, 3 damage, and then she drops quickly into the 10 twos, and then the 9s, which with an 8 on her final. 9s and 8s I'm never really comfortable with just because they're so much lower than the damage than the defense values that we need to hit to do damage. So that I'm a little hesitant about. Overall, she's I don't want to say a standard click, but she doesn't have a lot of specialty and not a lot of tricks. She's definitely a heavy hitter, and she's definitely got some good powers to go with. Overall, I'd say not a bad click. For 100 points common, she's not bad. Best way to defeat her, based on the energy shield deflection and her penetrating psychic blast, get into close combat with her. Get right up on her, because if you neutralize the energy shield deflection, it'll be easier to hit. She'll have to break away from you to be able to use her penetrating attack, which is not always going to happen. If you swamp her with somebody who has running plasticity, then she's not going to be able to get away. If you keep her pinned in place, then you'll be able to keep hitting her and wearing her down. And she doesn't have a good... she doesn't have a real good close combat click, so she's always going to be kind of at the losing end of that fight if you get into close combat with her. And yeah, the telekinesis and the force blast might make that a little bit more challenging, so you're going to want to use a couple of characters, kind of wear her down. Her controller might not use the telekinesis and might instead just try and slug it out with you. That is to your advantage, and you want him to do that. If he does use the telekinesis to throw you somewhere else, then you will be at the mercy of wherever he throws you, and then we'll have to run to get back into close combat. So, but yeah, that's Jean Grey. 100 points, some nifty tricks. I didn't really get into the support because I don't really use it all that much, but support can be really great, especially if you wanted to run Jean pretty exclusively like that. Like, there's all sorts of little tricks that you could pull with her telekinesis support powers and all those other sorts of things. You could use Force Blast to knock somebody off a building. You could use telekinesis to pull somebody away from their allies. Or you could use telekinesis to pull one of your guys closer to her so she can use the support on a later turn. These are all things that you could do with her. So overall, she's got a lot of neat tricks, but you'd have to look into her on your own to figure out how she would fit well into your team to figure out really how that would work. Next, we're going on to one of most fandom's favorite characters just generally. Like, if you ask somebody, they would generally say this is a character they like. But let's get to it. Alright, next up we have probably one of the most solidly anti-hero characters. Somebody that just about everybody likes. They all consider him to be the ultimate badass. We have a Wolverine. Now, I got this Wolverine out of the Gravity Feed, the Wolverine in the X-Men Gravity Feed. I actually got him twice. I'm not entirely certain about this, so feel free to correct me. I'm pretty sure this was the one that everybody wanted from that. Based on his running costs online, he was definitely somebody that everybody wanted. But let's get into his dial. He's got Indomitable. He's the first character to have Indomitable. Other than that, he's got a basic click. The other two that I've shown had flying. He does not have flying because, well, it's Wolverine. No range, no specials other than his Indom. He's got a special trait, which is actually really awesome, but I'll get into that in a second. He starts with Charge, Special Fist, and then he on his second dial he takes up Sidestep, Combat Reflexes, and Exploit Weakness, which is great. So he's definitely a close combat fighter, especially with a starting attack of 11 on 2 dials. Then he regains his special attack, keeps combat reflexes, and trades in for Battle Fury, which allows him to ignore shape change. And he could make range attacks anyways, but it makes him harder to mind control or incapacitate or anything like that. It definitely makes him a little bit more focused, I would say. He's not as easy to distract with little tricks that other characters can use, so that's great. Next dial, he loses his special, regains the Exploit Weakness. The next one, he gains back his special and gains a new special shield, which I'll get into. It ties in very nicely with his trait. And then for his final dial, he loses everything except the special shield, regains the Battle Fury, and after his 6th click, he is knocked out. So he has 6 clicks of life. But to get into his powers, To start with, his star trait. This is something that is a little bit harder to neutralize, generally speaking. Uh, Wolverine can use regeneration and toughness. So he always has regeneration, which makes sense with a Wolverine character. And just generally having the toughness factor helps keep him on the field a little bit longer. If you're hitting him with a 3, he's going to reduce it to 2. If you hit him with a 2, he's going to reduce it to 1. That sort of thing. That'll definitely help take his 6 a little bit further, especially if somebody doesn't realize it and goes in and outwits like his special or something, and they don't see this, they don't understand how the star works. If they're not able to outwit it, then it's harder to remove. Like an impervious that is easily outwitted by somebody is much easier to deal with than a toughness that can't really be outwitted as easily. Sorry, haven't had enough water today. But after that, his special fist that he has for a lot of his dial, I think he's got it for 1, 2, 3. He's got it for 3 alternating clicks. It's called Snick Snick. Wolverine can use Blades Claw's Fangs. If the result of his d6 is lower than his printed damage value, instead of dealing damage, he may make another close combat attack against the same character. So, because it says may, you can choose not to do this. If it was a really hard person to hit and you're okay with doing like 1 or 2 damage, then you can accept that. But with an attack of 3, if he doesn't do at least 3 damage on his attack due to this ability, he can instead choose to make a second attack. So it would be 3, he rolls a 1, you're like, no, that's not enough, I'm going to make another attack, I succeed on the attack, then I roll the dice again, I get a 6. Okay, perfect, that's Wolverine cutting in with his claws. So that definitely helps neutralize the problem with Blades Claw's Fangs, which is when you're dealing with a character who has anything more than a 1, there's always the chance that you do less damage than you would have done if you had decided to Blades Claw's Fangs anyway. So that's really great. And yeah, that's pretty much all there is to say about that. It's great. It's a great enhancement to the Blades Claw's Fangs ability that works absolutely perfectly with somebody who can shove metal blades out of their hands. Then his other special that he's got for 2, his very last 2 dials, is called Healing Factor. At the beginning of your turn, Wolverine can use regeneration as a free action. Now, it doesn't remove the -2, so on a 1 or a 2, you'd still fail your regeneration roll. But it gives you the option to use it as a free action, and then if you didn't roll high enough, or you just really, really wanted to regen hard, you could also use his trait to regen a second time, giving him an action token this time. So, on his last 2, he can use regen twice. Once as a free action, once as a action token action. That makes him very difficult to permanently kill. With that much use of regeneration, if he's got like any kind of support around him, he's probably going to be able to stay on the field a long time. All you'd have to do is have somebody else run up and give him some covering fire or support or anything like that, and he'd be able to regen twice, and then suddenly he's back to full health. He might have to clear the next turn or something, so he would be right back into the field, but that's why you have the support person move in and protect him while he's regenning. And then he comes into the field, and he's rip-roaring ready to go, and he cuts up whoever you need to cut up. He does the things that he does well, even if they're not really nice. But I've gone on long enough with this Wolverine. He is pretty awesome. With 113 double regen use and close combat, or charge with that Blades Claw's Fangs ability, generally speaking, he's going to do some pretty serious damage. He is also a switch click. His ability is the team character can use regen. I forgot to mention this in my previous video, so I'll mention it very briefly here. Jean Grey was also a switch click. She granted... they can draw lines of fire and count range and squares as if they occupied the squares of characters that began the game on their base. So if she's on a base with Wolverine, and then Wolverine moves off, but she stays on the base, then this base character can draw lines of fire from Wolverine onto whoever they need to draw lines of fire. For example, that wouldn't actually work because they start Wolverine is T001 and Jean Grey is T002, so they wouldn't actually be able to start on the same base. But it's a way... I'm just kind of emphasizing the point. Alright, so those were the first 3 characters of the team trade. So now we have the one who really kind of inspired me to start doing this. Unfortunately, I'm either going to have to trim this video or something to make it work, but let's get to it. Alright, looking at how long I was taking talking over the first 3 of the 4 characters of this, I'm deciding to actually hold off on revealing who the 4th and final member of this team was. Uh, I kind of hate to do it, but honestly, this character is so packed with abilities and traits and extra stuff that honestly, this guy deserves a video all on his own. If you guys have even an inkling of who I'm talking about, feel free to leave it in the comments below. I'd love to hear your predictions. I'd love to see if any of you are right. But yeah, this guy, he's just going to take up way too much time for me to fit him in. But anyways, if you guys liked this new style video where I'm a little bit more teamy, not so focused on the numbers, feel free to let me know. I'd love to hear what you guys think of this so far. I'd love for you guys to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.